So as you would have noticed, today's theme is all about the interplay of supply chain financing, technology, and liquidity, and how that three trilogy comes together to drive business performance for you and our partners. And we're going to explore a lot of that in our conversation and a range of topics around that, from digital supply chain finance to working capital optimization, trade digital marketplaces, to trade innovation, and more. And it's my delight to welcome both Dimple as well as Navin, and thank you for that. We have about 30 minutes for this session, and given the neatly packed agenda we have, please hold on to your questions. We have a tea break post our session, and then both Navin and Dimple will be happy to chat up with you. So lots to get into, and I'm going to dive straight in. And let me start with a very broad question, Dimple and Navin, and for both of you, just to set the table for this discussion and conversation. I'm curious to know, when it comes to digital supply chain finance, what comes to your mind first when you think of digital supply chain finance and its evolving landscape?
Thanks, Chinmaya. Actually, the first random thought that comes to me is the silk route that was there for trade, many, many years ago, which was a corridor which opened. And what did that Silk Route do? I'm sure everybody in the audience knows what is the Silk Road trade route. It did nothing but not only create opportunities for commerce, but created a lot of economic, well-being. So for me, if I correlate that, the first word comes to me is the digital Silk Route. What exactly have we done, right? The landscape has evolved in such a beautiful manner that today we are going to be sharing information very, very seamlessly across platforms. And this information is going to help and serve not just organization or banks, but I would say the country as a whole in terms of whatever the government initiatives are. So for me, the first thought that comes when I think of digital supply chain is actually the digital Silk Route, which China and Europe did, and I'm seeing we are going to be embarking on that journey very, very beautifully and seamlessly. Just 2-3 more points to add on that. Effectively, what I would like to add is, what were the challenges that digital supply chain faced and how the landscape has evolved? I mean, there was no convenience, there was no coverage, there was no speed. And today, all of those things have been addressed, beautifully through the technological platforms that are available, especially by very, very esteemed fintechs like you and partners like you. And that has effectively helped us evolve and create a completely one-stop shop solution for all the categories of clients and banks and the ecosystem. With that, if I look at the public digital infrastructure which is available by the government and by India, I think that is something we all can really leverage on, to be able to create a far more robust solutioning for financing. So if I encompass all of these things, looking at the focus the government has on MSME, and this is how the digital supply chain has started off, I would say the first step taken towards trades and the kind of volume and value that we've built up. For me, this landscape itself in the last couple of years has evolved dramatically. I mean, having taken over supply chain business at Yes just a few years ago, I would have never thought that this was the kind of success we would see in some of these businesses. And it's purely, I would say, on the backbone of having a digital infrastructure. So,
super, Navin.
First of all, a big thanks to Chinmaya and the M1 team for getting me an opportunity to be here in front of you. Let me share with you my perspective from the corporate side of it. The first word which came to my mind whenever I think of digital supply chain is certainly M1 exchange. Why this happened was, as we all know, the government came up with the TREDS guidelines, the platform, the need for the corporates to be there. However, when I met with the TREDS team, I was surprised to notice that my company is already registered with the TREDS M1 platform, but we have not done any business with them on this platform. And from that day of my discovery that we are already there on the platform, and it was a very, very interesting journey, and we are actually, truly speaking, seeing what digital supply chain can be done in terms of M1 platform. We have been kind of the same set of bankers we were banking with. We are again meeting them on the M1 platform. Our suppliers are happy. Our bankers are also happy. I was listening to Mr. Carla today in the morning, just before the sessions, about the challenge they see on the NPA side and the rating side of the customer profile. And we find that in India, this transformation which is happening on the digital side, the trades platform, specifically my experience with the M1, the kind of business we have done is a phenomenal one. And this is changing at such a fast pace. This next point, which I was looking at, you are thinking the possibility of 10x. So I was reading long back a book on 10x. So probably it is not 10x. Huh? My mind says this is a very big opportunity. It could be beyond 10x, the way the economy is growing. Thank you.
So mind you, I have not prepped his answers, and that's his genuine response. So nothing to do with me here. But thank you, Navin, for that. Staying with digital, Dimple, I want to talk about the digital experience. We got a glimpse of UFX and the customer journey envisaged therein. Share with us your expectations from platforms such as us as to how we can make this entire digital journey and digital experience more relevant for your corporates, especially in the light of this interconnected world where your clients, your partners are wanting speed, efficiency, transparency, so-called less friction. So give us your expectations, how we can improve it, and where more work is required on this digital journey.
So Chinmaya, before I answer question, I must congratulate the team on the UFX launch. I think it was definitely a great insight to know that there's a single unified platform, and that was one thing I think as banks, we always have as an ask, is having a unified interface, not just for corporates, but for the entire ecosystem. So congratulations to the entire Mind Solutions team. I think it's a brilliant initiative, and banks are still struggling in some form and fashion to actually go ahead on that journey. But having said that, the first question that always comes to my mind is that how did you guys surface? Why did fintechs become such a prominent and a relevant player in this space? Banks had all the control of the entire financing might. We had the power. We had clients who were always, eating out of our hands. I'm sorry to use that language, but that's a fact. And, when the whole journey started with fintechs, I always questioned, and I used to keep asking my management and my team, ye fintechs kya karne wale? What are they really going to bring to the table that is going to be very differentiated that we as banks cannot do? But clearly, looking at what I saw today and looking at what we are seeing over the last couple of years, the kind of disruption and the kind of, I would say, use case that you have created in the market, I think what has happened and worked well for guys like you is understanding the unique problem of the client. Today, the client is agnostic, more or less, to the bank platform. He actually has a unified platform with him. Now, banks are being forced to plug and play with them to be able to finance the same client on which I'm willing to take credit. So I must say kudos to you guys. Initially, I thought this would be a threat. You guys and we could never work together. Banks and fintechs would always be at loggerheads, always trying to get the market share. I'm saying a few candid things in this forum, but yes, these were my initial thoughts. But I feel today that we can be great partners with each other, and we can actually build a very, very clear strategy in how to take this offering as a joint proposition to corporates. We must add that the regulators have really, really done a path-breaking move. I mean, we cannot do any of this without the support and help of the regulators. And I think they have been very progressive. The digital lending guidelines, the outsourcing, financial, guidelines have really created that impetus where you and I and we can jointly work for the betterment of the corporate solutioning. So how can you and I work better, and what is the best offering we can give to corporates like Welspun here? Effectively, I feel, okay, again, very personal views, not views on behalf of Yes Bank, but the approach to corporates is still unilateral. We should have joint propositions to customers with banks and the platform to give that ease to the corporate that at the end of the day, we are already well tied in, the ecosystem is already. I'm not talking about Treads because you guys have M2, M3, multiple other platforms that you're live with, and I'm sure many more in the years to come. So that is one proposition which Mind Solutions and banks like us can actually do. The second critical thing I think we can do is, you guys have a fantastic platform. This can actually be a technological platform which can also be given to banks as a TSP for them to be able to build up this business. Because I know as a bank, Yes Bank, we had to invest bilaterally into a very big system, with a very heavy cost associated with it. But if partners like you have already those platforms in place, we can actually do, act as a TSP with each other and be able to create those efficiencies. So in some of those landscape opportunities, I think we are definitely not a threat to each other. We're definitely partners. And I think corporates in the country should see that as a whole. And we should be in a position to be able to create that value proposition and create all the infrastructure and create a one-stop solution for corporates. The logistics, the supply chain, the order booking, the funding. There is so much more to be done in this space. And there's so much more that we can partner together that I think we are just hitting the tip of the iceberg in this.
I'm just thinking, Sandeep is sitting right up in front of us. He's already thought of a new company, maybe M5 and M6, to set this up and set the ball rolling. But thanks for that.
Sandeep, I must say, when your team comes and meets me, I'm always confused. M2 kya kar raha hai, M3 kya kar raha hai. Aap M4, M5, 6 leke aaoge, to bankers are going to be confused.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. Yeah. So I'm going to switch lanes now, and I want to get to Navin in terms of a few questions. So in terms of, I want to talk about the changing roles of a CFO, the changing roles of a CFO in a dynamic business environment, right? Interconnected world, we hear the CFOs are now moving from not just crunching numbers, but shaping visions. So Navin, I wanted to get your thoughts on how a digital transformation in finance is reshaping the CFO of tomorrow, and importantly, the evolving role of CFO seen more. So I've heard of acronyms as Chief Future Officer. I've heard for the CFO, I've heard acronyms as Chief Value Officer. So I want to get your thoughts on the evolving role of CFO as we move forward, especially they being far more in the forefront of strategy and business.
I am reminded of Alvin Toffler. He said there are 3 waves. The agricultural wave was there. Then we had a, industrial wave. Then we had a information wave. Now, actually, to my understanding, we are in the 4th wave, which is the digital wave. So the Indian economy is very unique. Probably the CFOs like us, when we are operating, we are, unlike the developed countries, we are actually dealing with all the 4 waves together. On one side, somebody who's sourcing his agricultural product, so agriculture wave is still on, industrial wave is there, the information wave is already there, but far-reaching consequences of this digital age is so significant that each of the CFOs today have to be very, very particular to understand the digital wiring which is undergoing as a transformative factor in any business setup. The role of CFOs and the leadership is changing like anything else. And a typical CFO who is required to do the bookkeeping, accounting has changed. The CFO's role is not only in formulating the strategy, but executing the strategy as well. While doing this, in this age of AI, the need of decision-making has to be done based on data analytics, real-time information, which we saw on a screen like UFX coming up, helping the company to achieve the goal of value creation. While doing that, we have to be mindful of the ESG goals which a corporate is having on their charter, basically. So I think the role of CFOs is changing in a very, very significant manner in terms of adoption of technology, the digital transformative, and executing the strategy to create right value for the organization.
Okay, great. And just sticking with the same theme, one of the pet topics for CFOs and a very foundational topic remains working capital optimization, right? And in a world which is more volatile, less stable, more uncertainty, cash and working capital remains a lifeline, right? Share with us maybe perhaps two levers or two strategies you see corporate treasurers, CFOs deploying to strengthen financial resilience, I would say, in your supply chain partners, especially, let's say, MSMEs or even larger suppliers. What are the levers or strategies you're using from a working capital perspective to build financial resilience in your ecosystem and your partners?
Chinmay, as you rightly said, cash flow is a lifeline for any business. So when we do our working capital management, what we see is we have to forecast our cash flows in a manner that we can meet our obligations in time. While doing this, see, there are multiple instruments. On one side, we have treasury operations for surplus cash for investments. On other side, we have multiple financing instruments for our working capital needs. So in the last couple of years, we have seen those number of, say, 7 lakh crores on MSME funding, which has happened, has actually connected most of the large corporates with MSME in a transformational way. Today, we see that we do work and funding on MSME platform for two purposes. Number one is our compliances. Number two is getting a funding at a right price. See, on the one hand, we have our banker friends who are working on the PSL factor for them. For us, it's a win-win. See, this is a very unique, dynamic thing which has happened on the trades, where the regulator is keen to prop up the economy. We just saw that 0.5% GDP is getting impacted by the MSME funding and the capital which is getting rotated in the system. So overall GDP growth is on one side, regulator is happy with the MSME taking shape, bankers are getting a right platform for the PSL lending, we as a corporate get a right pricing of it. So while we have covered this journey, with all plethora of other instruments which are traditionally available to us, another key feature we are looking forward to is the dynamic discounting. There is a potential for us to unlock value, probably from our side. If we are, say, AA rated company, we get a particular set of pricing. There are a lot of MSME players whose ratings are very different and their pricing is very different. So there is an opportunity for us to create more liquidity in the system and use this dynamic discounting in a more robust manner. If I see today, if I do, say, 100 crore rupees of funding on M1 exchange or trades platform, how much is my dynamic discounting? It is hardly a small percentage and a fraction. So I will request M1 team to take up this dynamic discounting and the UFX platform in a more significant manner, which brings a lot of resilience within our entire system of trades. So for us, trades and dynamic discounting are the two key things which is going to be very, very helpful in the coming days.
Okay, outstanding. No, thanks for that. Given the paucity of time, I'm going to switch tracks. I'm going to change it and pivot a bit. We're going to move to a rapid fire round. So I've tried to add some quick questions and where we'll have short 1 or 2 word answers given the time. So we'll have a quick rapid fire round. I have a few questions and I look forward to getting your inputs there. So, and maybe we'll start always with ladies first, always. So with Dimple. Biggest lesson you've learned as a leader in your individual journey?
Build relationships with people, not for the chair or the position they carry in an organization. So build relationships.
Navin?
Adapt and change with time and take your people along with you.
Super. I was thinking to ask this question, but I'm still going to ask it. What's the one question you wish you were asked more often?
As a woman leader, what have I done for my progress in my journey, and how could I have mentored more women and created more gender diversity, at least at Yes Bank?
Outstanding.
I wish I was asked that.
How we as CFOs can add more value to the business in terms of decision making?
So you're not asked this question often enough?
Most of the time, the people ask us numbers.
Okay. Best piece of business advice you've got?
Best piece of business advice. Hire people for their attitude and not for their skill. If they have the right attitude and value, they will learn the skill along the way.
Best piece of advice I got from one of my former bosses from Mahindra & Mahindra, Mr. Arun Randa. He used to tell us, build partnership based on trust. Build partnerships based on trust. It goes a long way.
I noticed none of you mentioned your spouses.
They are not here.
Okay, okay, quickly, okay. So looking back, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you in your career earlier? Looking back, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you in your career journey?
Someone would have told me to do a lot of networking and not just be in my bubble within the stream of organization I'm working with. I wish someone had told me to build network outside of having completed 21 years at Yes Bank. I mean, I wish
21 years at Yes
told me
Bank,
that, yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
As old as the bank gets, actually.
Navin.
So it was told to me, but I have not really implemented it, which we all know. For a lot of people, it is the eighth wonder of the world, which is compounding interest. So do invest and take the benefit of compounding in your life. This is one lesson you can always kind of take to your advantage at any point of your life.
Okay. Two quick questions. One risk you're glad you took in your career, Dimple?
Definitely joining Yes Bank from City. Startup Greenfield Bank. I couldn't have taken a better risk in my career, and the opportunity I got here was immense. So it was the best risk I took.
Navin?
I will say that beyond finance, I have been able to rotate into more than 20 businesses in my career. So that is a risk which I was taking to learn new businesses every time I'm stepping into. Okay,
super. That's great. So I have two final questions. I'm going to try and squeeze it in. That's the end. And big round of applause for the rapid fire round. That's super. I have a lots more, but I'm going to pause here. So let's try and close and summarize this session now. And I have two final questions. I'm trying to squeeze in. I see the timekeeper there. I want to go forward 5 years from today. We are at Samaah 2030. Let's picture that, right? But unfortunately, you are stuck with me as a moderator. We are in the same context, same panel discussion, digital supply chain finance. Both your perspectives. Would we be talking about something different? Would we be talking about something new? Would we be talking about incrementally different? What would we be talking about in 2030 Samaah?
We would be talking of a more offensive strategy than a defensive strategy in supply chain. It will not be restricted only to cash flow-based financing, but a far more offensive strategy in supply chain, which can, in my view, help build models, build P&L, build systems, and I would say build strategies for corporates and banks. So that would be a different conversation. I think all of this would be there. We would be already up the curve on some of the initiatives that you have taken. Sustainability, I think channel finance and supply chain and digital can actually play a very critical tool for sustainability. We can do a lot of things more ethically, a lot of governance and a lot of practices can be well curated and well monitored if supply chain is truly used in the right sense. I guess we'll be talking more of very different kind of AIs. Artificial intelligence, while we talk, I still feel, personal view again, we have a long way to go to truly use AI in the truest sense in the digital supply chain journey. So that would be a different conversation we would have in the next 5 years. And yeah, I guess these would be the top 3 conversations you'd be having. And I'm hoping I would still not be working with Yes Bank after 5 years. And I would be representing and doing something on my own. I mean, I would obviously wish that's a personal wish.
We'll still have you on our panel. No?
Yeah,
Navin.
I hope you will still have you on the panel.
I will take a minute on this topic. Very interesting topic that in next, say, 5 years, where are we going to be talking on this same setup? Probably number one will be, not this UFX we will go. We would be doing our funding at the time of purchase through our embedded systems, whether it is my B2B purchase platform, my ERP system, that is one. Number two will be, lot of AI will be helping us to take financial decisions. Today, my team brings the options. There are 3 things, which is a better one. So probably AI will be helping us in decision making, which Dimple also emphasized. The third will be the ESG-based funding. Today, we talk about only PSL today, for example. Tomorrow, we will be talking about, yes, so much of percentage of ESG-based funding is happening for the corporates who are taking a lead on this. So these 3 things will be very different from what we are doing today and as we go ahead on this direction.
As long as Sandeep invites the 3 of us in 2030. And finally, I
must say I'm a substitute to someone today, so I definitely won't be invited.
Final question to close it and get your summary. Both Navin and Dimple, what's the one thing you want the audience to reflect upon, to think upon, to do as a result of this conversation?
Can I say 3 if it's okay?
Please go ahead.
Right. One is, of course, don't treat a digital supply chain, as a cost center. I mean, not just for corporates, but for banks, for partners. This is not a cost center for anybody. It's actually, I would say, creating far more working capital, better efficiencies for the entire ecosystem. And look at it from a very critical strategic initiative. I tend to see, and sorry, this is not a feedback for Welspun or any corporate, that I will only look at my cost of funds and my financing for myself. And as long as it meets my prerogative, it's okay. I would say transcend this to your entire ecosystem, because if they win and they get better access to money, information, financing, you will always get the benefit of it, at the core of it. And last but not the least, I mean, a takeaway would be India first, think big, always leverage on any innovation with customer centricity at its core, right? That is the thumb rule for anything. And leverage all the digital public infrastructure that is available. And last but not the least, we are dealing with money, we are dealing with the digital, we are dealing with everything seamless. So governance and security, I think, cannot be compromised, and that's the critical prerogative, and it's non-negotiable. So that would be the takeaway for all of us in this session.
Navin, quickly.
I would like each one of us to think not of what is happening today, but what is coming up ahead, the future challenges. What we need to do is ask what is new, which is happening. And one more, the last piece is, we saw about M1. I heard about M1 Next. But for M1 Next kind of thing to happen in India, we have to see that global trade under WTO, then United Nations, there is a model law which is there on electronic transfer of data. So that is the crucial piece for the Indian regulator, the government, to fast track is in line with what Singapore has done, what UK has done. India is needing that as a very, very big requirement, so that all the digital documentation can happen in terms of bill of lading. We have a couple of your guests from Singapore, so they will be knowing much about it. So the electronic BL and all these things have to be brought in for the next level of transformation happening in the country. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Dimple and Navin. Thank you.